speaking of people we like, we don't do this lightly. We throw around the phrase "friends of the blokes." Well, the first time this bloke utters a word today, he will officially become a friend of the blokes. His name is Stuart Coupe. He is he's an author, but he's also a music promoter. And we have, Rob, get ready for this, a symbiotic relationship.
I beg your pardon?
We need him because he sends along good guests, and he needs us because we get his guests. Hello, Stuart.
Yeah, good morning. How are you both?
Oh, well, you're a symbiotic friend of the blokes now.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to have you back. I find your
And
world...
his front.
I find your world extremely interesting, and we're going to tap into a bit of that today. But music, it sort of touches everybody at some stage of life. There's particular different genres that everyone loves. But go all the way back. When did music first hit you?
When I was probably about 10 or 11, I grew up in Launceston in Tasmania, and we had two radio stations, 7LA, which was kind of conservative, and 7EX, which was my station because they played Motown, they played The Who, they actually played, Jimi Hendrix and things of that nature. And the first song the first record I ever bought, I saved up $1.15 doing a paper round around my local area. And as soon as I had $1.15, I went into the local white goods shop, which doubled as a record shop in Launceston, and I bought Friday on My Mind by the Easy Beats.
Very good choice to start your career, I would have thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And I still think it's one of the most exhilarating and exciting songs I've ever heard. I love it.
It's interesting, isn't it? It was in the film, I assume you've seen the film, The Boat That Rocked, and it's in the middle of that, and a lot of those songs you sort of think, oh yeah, I remember that song, but it comes on and you go, oh, it's kind of contemporary. It doesn't age, does it?
Look, it sounds absolutely incredible. I mean, when my Shake Some Action book, my sort of memoir came out a couple of years ago, it got played quite often in interviews that I did, and every single time I get the hairs rose on my arm every time I heard it, and I've heard it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I mean, when it came out, I had no idea what it was really like, or what it was really about in terms of working for the rich man, and all about the lyrical content. I just thought it was a great song, and without getting too name droppy here, but we'll move on to that. I remember asking Bruce Springsteen in Paris in 1981, and I said, Bruce, is there any Australian song that you really love? And he didn't miss a beat. He said, Friday on My Mind by the Easy Beats. And he said, I'd love to play it, but the guitar chords are too complicated.
Wow.
And I went, hang on a second, this is Bruce Springsteen, one of the great contemporary guitar players, and he's telling me that Friday on My Mind is too hard for him to play. And I came back to Australia and I said to a few musician friends of mine, I said, Friday on My Mind, it can't be that difficult, is it? And they said, Stuart, you know nothing about music. They said it's an incredibly complex song to perform. So when Springsteen came back about 4 or 5 years ago, he actually opened his Sydney concert with Friday on My Mind. So I figured 40-odd years of practice, he'd got it down. Right?
And about time, I say. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you think about the Easy Beats, some of the music that they wrote, you look at Vander and Young, and I know Stevie Wright also had a fair bit to do with the writing of music for the band, but they were very clearly very talented songwriters, and therefore it's not unexpected that the chords that they play would be a bit complex.
Yes, but it's interesting because they make it sound so simple.
Yes.
I really was staggered. I go, what?
Yeah.
What's this Springsteen guy talking about? I mean, he can play anything. Friday on My Mind, it's a 2.5 minute, concise, beautifully constructed pop song. It can't be that difficult. So, it's been borne out by many, many, many conversations with people that the intricacies of the music match the cleverness of the lyrics, but in both cases, lyrically and musically, they make it seem so simple. So and that was one of the things that made the Easy Beats just such an incredible, band.
Now, when you want to name drop, you name drop Bruce Springsteen. When we want to name drop, we drop Stuart Coupe. We know him, and he's a friend of the blokes. Now, you have released a new book. and I should have it written down in front of me, and I don't, but it relates to some of the alleged ne'er-do-wells of King's Cross.
Yes, look, it's called Saffron Incorporated, and it looks obviously at Abe Saffron, who was, I guess, people say, because he's such a household name in Sydney, everybody knows Abe Saffron, but that doesn't necessarily mean it travels around the country as much. But I say, look, think of an Al Capone type figure. Abe Saffron ruled and controlled King's Cross from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's a book looking at him, but specifically because there's been a bunch of books written about Abe Saffron, specifically looking at him in the world of entertainment in Australia. And his involvement with Lee Gordon in the late 50s, early 60s, in concert promotion, the venues that he owned in particularly King's Cross. And then the last 100 pages takes the story up to the present day. So it looks at the role of organised crime in the Australian entertainment industry, right up to, at least one instance which is currently before the courts. So it's a mixture which I hope hangs together as a pretty decent read.
Let's just throw a few allegedlys in there just in case someone decides that they need to.
We've got to do lots of allegedly.
Yeah.
The only thing that's not alleged, which is fact, is that I'm a friend of your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and
that is not alleged.
Yeah, and you have written the book. There's no allegations there at all.
None whatsoever.
and casually yesterday, while you and I were chatting, you also mentioned that, ironically, the song that I'd already chosen to play before we talked to you by Elvis Presley, you've also written a book about the band that Elvis had. Yes,
I was lucky enough to go on tour in 1999. Some listeners might remember when a virtual Elvis tour came to Australia, which was all of Elvis's 70s Las Vegas band, so the great James Burton, Jerry Sheff, Ronnie Tutt, Glenn D. Harden, their musical conductor, Joe Gershio, the backing group, the Sweet Inspirations. They all came to Australia and toured nationally, with Elvis being projected on a big screen. And I got to tell you, I was asked to go on tour to do a book about the Elvis band, and I was so cynical. I went, what? I'm going to go to the movies and kind of watch these people play along with Elvis? And I did not miss one of, I think, 12 or 13 shows. The first one I saw, I went, wow, this just works so incredibly. I'm never going to get to see one of my musical heroes, but this is as close as I'll get. So I spent those 3 weeks travelling around Australia, basically interviewing all of these musicians and singers for a projected book. And then something happened. I wrote, most of it, and then there was some, internal problems between the estate of Elvis Presley and blah, blah, blah. And so, it was kind of shelved, but I had a fantastic time. I mean, can you imagine travelling with some of my musical heroes, and how bad was my day? I'd wake up and go, I've got to spend 3 hours with James Burton. Then I've got to go and talk to Jerry Sheff. I'm in heaven. And then COVID came along, and I remember distinctly I was going to do my radio show. We were considered during COVID, us radio people, essential workers. So I was walking through the deserted streets of Sydney, heading towards to do my radio show, and my phone started ringing, and it was a Los Angeles number or an American number. And normally I kind of go, I don't know who this is. I'll wait and see. But I thought, you know what? I think I should take this call. And it was the guy who put together the virtual Elvis tour, and calling from Los Angeles, and he said, Stuart, all my businesses there's nothing going on. COVID is taken them all to the wall. And he said, I'm looking back at things that I could do. You remember that book you wrote in 1999? So we're talking 21 years later. And I said, yeah. He said, do you want to finish it off? He said, let's put it out there. So thankfully I had one of those. I think I had a printed copy of it. He had a floppy, those little blue floppy disks, things that, seem like ancient history these days.
Rob still uses them.
I had the original manuscript, and so I did some work on it, and in the middle of COVID, finally, out comes my, on tour with the TCB, Taking Care of Business band. So it's a reminder, it certainly was for me, never throw away those old manuscripts. Keep everything.
You might be able to hear the gentle weeping coming through at the moment. That's our third bloke who fills in when Rob or I are not available. His name is Grant Bench, and Grant hosts a program called For the Love of Elvis on every Saturday afternoon on 94.7 The Pulse at 5 p.m. And he's currently weeping because he didn't get to do what you did.
Right. Well, I think Grant and I need to have a talk.
I would have thought there's a very good chance we could organise that. He's
Look, he will weep even more when I finish selling him the story.
And he'll be listening right now. I'll get a text message pop up on my phone in a minute.
By the end of our conversation.
So, the process of writing a book, how many have you written, do you know, off the top of your head?
This is number 17.
Yeah, okay. So, do you... I'm in the middle of writing a book of myself at the moment. Do you find it difficult to get into a flow, or do you just sit down in front of your typewriter, metaphorically speaking, and bang out it comes?
Look, when I'm writing a book, initially I write every day from early in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I try, and that's 7 days a week, and I don't take a break, and I try and do 3,000 or 4,000 words a day until I've got about 80 or 90,000 words. And I describe that as doing the undercoat. Like if you've got to paint a room, you just slap the paint around, you get the undercoat down. Later on, you worry about exactly what colour, how it's going to be shaded. You start to think about the cornices and all that sort of stuff. But I get a working sense of what the book's going to be about, and then I start fine-tuning it, which, a typical book's about 90 to 100,000 words. It's unusual for me to do a book where I don't write well over 200,000 words. And then, I just sort of work it into something that vaguely seems like a book, and then I hand it into my publisher, and they get a really good editor who turns my appalling abilities to use the English language, almost inability to spell. I know nothing about punctuation. A good editor will come on board and turn it into something that will actually be publishable, and they will ask me 10 million things. I mean, I know when I wrote my biography of Michael Gudinski 10 years ago now, I remember the editor sent it back to me with, I counted them, it was 1,473 yellow tag queries in the manuscript.
So when you write a book, the folk at the local stationery store go, "You beauty, there's going to be a run on yellow tags."
Yellow tags will be in very, very short. I'm getting a bit more modern, which drives me crazy because, they send it to you all on a computer file. And, there is a great sense of accomplishment to rip off a yellow tag and screw it up and throw it on the floor and go, only 986 of you left.
So the photograph that accompanies each book publishing is a pile of yellow tags on the floor.
Yeah, when I'm surrounded and stomping through yellow tags, I really feel like, progress is being made. But look, yeah, definitely, every book, I always figure it takes about 2 years, but that's because I do a lot of other things, because, not very many people write books in Australia to actually make even the beginnings of an income from them. And if your name is Andy Griffith and you're churning out magnificent kids books as Andy does, or, one of those lucky 1 or 2% of people, you have to do other things to make a living. So with all the other things that I do, my independent artist publicity and my radio shows and everything else, it's normally about 2 years from start to finish with a book.
Hey, Steve, when you're writing now...
His name's Stuart.
Sorry. Good morning, Stuart. When you start riding now, does the haunting of the yellow tag sit in the back of your mind as far as the style on your day-to-day riding, or do you just plough on as you did and whatever the yellow tags do, they do?
Sorry, I missed a little bit of that, but with the yellow tags, I pay really particular attention to everything that's there, right? You kind of have to. Like when I was riding Shake Some Action, I mean, I had the most brilliant editor and lots and lots of computerized yellow tags, and I had to wake up every morning and go. Patrick was my editor, and I remind myself, Patrick did not put on this earth to make my life a misery.
Yeah.
But Patrick was not there to terrorise me. Patrick was there working very, very hard to make my book much, much better than what it would have been if Patrick wasn't there in my life. But, he succeeded in driving me absolutely crazy. But at the end of the day, that's what makes a good book. When I was writing the Michael Gudinski book, my editor made me rewrite the opening 20 pages 12 times. And I was just like at my wit's end, and I'd give it back to him and he'd say, you know what, that's not bad. You're getting there. Why don't you spend the next couple of days having another go at it?
Oh, you need that sort of encouragement.
Look, I was, but then I read it back when when he finally said, I think that's as good as you can get. Not like that's genius. But, oh well, I think that's as good as you're going to get. A lot. It's one of the things that people, when they talk about my writing career, a lot of people go, boy, I loved that opening section of the Michael Gudinski book and the stories about him touring the Rolling Stones and so forth. So, at that point you go, okay, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah. Well, we do need to let you go and hit the typewriter again, Stuart. Where can people buy your books?
Hopefully, as the cliche goes, at all good bookstores. I did have cause to fly down to Melbourne last weekend, and I did see it at all airport bookshops, which is always a good sign because we're talking fewer and fewer books. So I, of course, do what every author does, and I just do, excuse me, I'm just going to go and get some chewing gum and check whether they've got enough copies of my book. So it was at airports. Look, it's in Big W and Kmart, I hope. And you always wonder as an author when these places don't have your book. You go, right, two things have happened here. It wasn't selling and they sent it back, or, it sold really well and they're out of stock and they're waiting for new stock to arrive. You always hope it's the latter and not the former.
Stuart, we will spell your surname because there'll be some people going there not sure how to spell it. Coupe, like coupe without the accent. Does that sound fair?
That's it. Just straight coupe and friend of the bloke.
We assume that will be on the cover of the next book, will it?
I probably will have both of your photos on it.
Oh, that'll scare the natives.
Magnificent.
But you want the subject.
Stuart, particularly if it's about alleged underworld. No, let's not go down that path. Stuart, it's great fun to have a chat to you on a regular basis. You pop up in my inbox most mornings. One of your emails last week has resulted in next week's 10 o'clock guest being James Blundell will be on this program. So, I do read your emails.
Ooh. James Blundell, that'll get the the country and western and young ladies excited.
Indeed, as much as they have been today. Stuart, thanks for your time this morning. Thanks for doing what you do for independent musos because it's a really important part of their world, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks, Stuart. Best wishes.
Stuart Coupe there, author and independent music promoter from Sydney.